Good afternoon, everyone. We are Team Cosplay. Welcome to our house presentation. I'm Abhishek. I'm a producer and designer on the team.
I'm Ruanan, a programmer on the team.
I'm Ankit. I'm a programmer on the team.
I'm Pepin, a designer and programmer on the team.
I'm also Abhishek. This is Cosmo, and I'm a programmer on the team.
Our client is Anki, and our faculty advisors are Mike Crystal and Brenda Hager. Cosmo is a robot with a unique personality. What that means is he's very emotive and he expresses things very well. He doesn't like to lose, so don't be surprised if he throws a tantrum or if he throws a cube even at you. So, as you can see in the photo, Cosmo comes along with a charging dock and 3 cubes that he can communicate with using radio waves. And he can also see the markers that are present on the cubes to find where they are. So Ankit's target demographic for this particular robot is 60% kids, specifically ages 8 and above, and 40% adults with a flat ratio of 50% with males and females. The interface that we are working with this robot is we connect using a phone to the Cosmo over Wi-Fi, and we have been working with an alpha version of the SDK for the past few weeks. Currently, we are in beta. Our goal for this project is to develop engaging games and interactions for Cosmo. We're trying to explore capabilities and give feedback on the new SDK that they're developing. And we are trying to deliver experiences to Anki by the end of the semester. To help with the process, we came up with a few design pillars. To talk about a few, we're trying to explore Cosmo's features within his limitations. And we're trying to play with Cosmo, not as Cosmo. That is something very important to us because we believe that we want to capitalize on his emotions and emotiveness. We are obviously focusing on mechanics first and trying to build experiences around that. And we are creating Cos moments. What that means is we are going for moments of playful, emotional engagements. To talk more about our process, I'd like to call on stage Rona.
Thanks, Abhishek. So we didn't get Cosmo until week 4. So from week 1 to week 3, all the information we have about Cosmo are from the official websites and videos. We also have several meetings with our client Anki to talk about the capabilities of Cosmo. So during these weeks, we did a lot of research and we start to brainstorm ideas. Some of these ideas are a real game, where others are more about plays and moments to show the personalities of Cosmo. So we finally came up 40 ideas. And another thing we did is, since the SDK is written in Python, so we did spend some time to learn the language. And on week 4, we finally received both Cosmo and the SDK. We start to explore the SDK and try to build some small prototypes to test the capabilities of Cosmo. So during this process, we discovered that there are many limitations with both SDK and the Cosmo. Here is the list of some limitations we found. And one big thing is Cosmo won't be able to play multi-actions at a time. For example, if we ask Cosmo to play animations and say text at the same time, it won't be possible. Another big thing is there's no microphone within Cosmo. So for players, they won't be able to communicate with Cosmo through voice directly. So because of these limitations, we found that many of our previous brainstormed ideas were unfeasible. So on week 5, we decided to redefine our developing process. So the way we did is each week we want to focus on one prompt, come up ideas, and then start to build prototypes in this area. So the way it works is we select prompt on previous Friday, and during the weekend we will brainstorm ideas. And then at the beginning of each week, on Monday, we will finalize tasks for everyone. For the programmers, we will start to building prototypes in parallel. And during this process, we will add the license to our internal wiki. And we also extract useful code into the reusable modulars. And then it goes to the next week. And here's a list of our potential prompts. And until now, we have already built some prototypes in these 3 areas. And then Anki will talk about the details with the prototype we built.
Thanks, Runan. So starting from week 6, we prototyped a couple of ideas. First week, we focused on reflex games. So first experience we built was odd one out mechanic, where your goal is to tap the odd pattern or color out of 3 cubes, and Cosmo will react based on your input. The second prototype we built was a quick tap mechanic. Basically, you are playing against Cosmo. That means you have to tap as fast as possible whenever the color stops blinking. And you get score if you tap faster than Cosmo. The third mechanic we built was a Pong game, where again it's a tap mechanic and you have to tap whenever the color or light comes to your end. And this is again a game where you are compete against Cosmo. And fourth one was the interesting one where we used 3 cubes as a 3 primary colors and we made a color puzzle out of it. So basically whenever Cosmo asks, for example, a purple color, you have to stack red and blue color to make a purple. And similarly, if it asks for a black color, you have to make pyramid out of 3 cubes. So after building all these prototypes, we learned a couple of lessons. First of them was related to cube detection. We found that we can only track cubes if it is within the Cosmos field of vision. And also related to cubes tap, basically it uses accelerometer. So sometimes user have to tap very hard in order to detect actual tap. And third thing, finally, we learned that even though we can say any text we want using Cosmos text-to-speech engine, but it is very hard to understand. So we have to restrict ourselves to to tell like long instructions basically. Next week, we focused on camera custom markers and Cosmos LCD display. And first experience we built was using Cosmos face detection, face recognition API. So what we built was a simple peekaboo experience where Cosmo detects your face and it reacts whenever it finds you. The second prototype we built was a simple 3-letter anagram game, which is a learning experience where we use Cosmos LCD display to show a random sequence of 3 letters. And your goal is to rearrange cube in order to make the right combination. And Cosmo will react based on correct or incorrect answers. And finally, we also explored a couple of external services to make more smarter experience using Cosmos inbuilt camera API. We integrated with OpenCV, a Python framework, as well as we also added a Google Cloud Vision API. Basically, we were able to extract information based on Cosmos camera feed. And after week 7, we learned a couple of important lessons. Again, we found that even though face recognition is a very small activity, but it creates a powerful impact whenever Cosmo finds a new face. Second thing we learned was that Cosmos camera feed is low resolution. That means we only get black and white image feed. But using external services like OpenCV, we were able to extract important information and we were able to make it more smarter. Now to talk more about tools, Pepin will continue.
Thank you, Ankit. The third prompt that we covered was tools for Cosmo. Tools for Cosmo refers to either using Cosmo as a tool in your daily routine or augmenting Cosmo with some sort of external tool. The first game that we came up with this week was called Nice to Meet You. This is basically an experience where you text message back and forth with Cosmo, and he has emotional reactions such as embarrassment and shyness. Another game that we came up with is called Drawing with Cosmo. This basically involves Cosmo tracing paths that correspond to letters. As you can see, in this case, he drew Mike or attempted to draw Mike. And lastly, we came up with a game called Cosword, which is just sort of a proof of concept tool for Cosmo. Basically, this is a word of the day app. So maybe every day you might ask Cosmo what's the word of the day, and he'll give you a word as well as a definition. The lessons that we learned this week included for the text message game, we discovered that novel communication methods can make Cosmo a lot more lifelike. Text messaging is something you associate with people rather than robots. So when Cosmo sends you a text, you really start to engage with him as a being. Additionally, with the drawing game, we realized that although in Cosmo's internal coordinate system can make for some interesting possibilities, having him drive from one position to another, it's not very precise, so you're not going to have Cosmo drawing an elaborate sketch or anything. So having discussed the prototypes, I'll now discuss our technical communication. Internally, we communicate technical details with each other over our internal wiki, which is based on Slack. As you can see, we have a number of different channels based on Cosmo's features, and we communicate and share code that way. Additionally, we communicate with Anki over their SDK forums. On these forums, we report bugs to them. We also ask questions and we interact with other posters. And as you can see, our feedback has actually shaped the SDK so far, as you can see by the highlighted comment there. And lastly, this semester, BBW actually used Cosmo as a platform in round 3 and is currently using it as a platform in round 4. We've relayed to them information from our internal wiki as well as from Anki, and we've also provided Anki feedback from the BBW teams on working with Cosmo. Having discussed our technical communication, now over to Abhishek to discuss playtesting.
Thanks, Pepin. So, as you just saw, we created several prototypes. But how did people react to them? For one, we had frequent informal playtesting sessions where guests would visit and interact with Cosmo. Over the past few weeks, we had 12 different companies visit our project room. And this helped us to identify features that had a broad appeal, namely Cosmo's expressions, as well as his small animations, like when he would be surprised. We also had other members of the ETC interact with Cosmo, and these sessions gave us more specific learnings. For example, the lights on the cubes are a great way to give feedback. The cubes themselves have to be tapped much harder than what the guests expect for the code to register them. And Cosmo himself needs to be constantly in motion to breathe life into his persona. We also had a more structured playtest where there were 9 different prototypes on display. Some of the good things from the playtest? Well, nearly everyone found Cosmo to be cute and loved his expressions. They were delighted when he would acknowledge them, for example, in Peekaboo. This has reinforced our belief that we should aim to create moments with Cosmo rather than trying to fit him into a game with rules and a rigid structure. There are also some new issues which emerged during the playtest. Since we were using multiple Cosmos, there would often be confusion during the setup when they would detect each other's cubes. And his Cosmos voice is kind of tough to understand. It's really distracting when 2 of them are speaking at the same time. Thus, in the future, we will be holding more isolated playtests where the guests have a space to connect with their Cosmo. So going forward, we have a fairly good understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of Cosmo. We are going to explore a few more prompts, and this week we have already begun work on creating a physical board area for Cosmo to play Tapatan. This one will be achieved by using Makey Makey. And in the second half of the semester, we will be working on more complex ideas that require time as well as the use of additional technologies similar to the ones we have described till now. And we are doing this because we want to step up from simple proof of concept prototypes to more satisfying experiences. And the good thing is that Anki has imposed no restrictions on us, so we are free to explore whatever ideas we may have. And so to summarize, we are Team Cozplay, and we are developing engaging games and interactions for Cosmo. Throughout this process, we will be providing feedback that improves the SDK, as well as creating a knowledge base that will benefit the ETC in the future. Till now, we have prototyped 15 different ideas, and because we have the freedom, we will be going big in the future. Thank you, and we are now open to questions.
Did you discuss your metrics?
Yes, we did. So the question was like regarding metrics. We are focusing on 2 things. One is we are trying to develop experiences that capitalize on his emotions. That will be more satisfying as we go into the semester. And 2 is we are trying to provide feedback to Anki so that their future SDK that they develop will benefit from our experiences. So we have already done that so far when we moved from alpha version to beta version, and we will continue to do so.
Yeah, and to add to that, like as you saw, we have already helped give feedback and to help them improve their SDK. Just yesterday, they contacted us if they could use the videos that we, as well as the BBW teams, have created, so that they can showcase it on their website. And as long as we can deliver such, satisfying experiences that Anki is proud to, display on their website, I think that's definitely a success for us. Yes.
It seems like you're exploring lots of prototypes and you're documenting that. But What will be your final deliverable to the Anki?
So the question was, what was our final deliverable to Anki? So we will be delivering all the experiences that we create. They have not restricted us to explore a particular aspect or to go deep into something. They have kept it pretty open from their end. It's up to us to decide. And that's why we developed a lot of prototypes in the first half of the semester. And we will use all that experience because it's a new platform. It's a new thing. And since we were working with the alpha version of an SDK, a lot of things did not work, which we assumed would work. So going forward, we want to use all this experience and make something more satisfying. That's what we'll be delivering.
Yeah, and additionally, our feedback to Anki regarding the SDK is at least as important to them as any single experience that we deliver to them.
So for the drawing, actually now what we are doing is we attach a marker on the Cosmo, and we ask, for example, if he wants, if we ask him to draw a M, we will first, we will have some patterns for each character, and we already store these patterns in the code. So each time if we ask him to draw M, we will just run the script. And currently is because we have, there are several functions for Cosmo to move from one point to another, but it's not that very accurate. So we have tried several different methods, and the one we are using now is it will trigger their wheels to move forward and move backward, so that and turn like an angle, and so we compose all these elements together and then to ask him to draw like one character.
Yeah, we are facing a similar problem in Tapetan, where ideally all we had to do was give him 9 points on the grid to go to, and Cosmo would go there, but every single time he goes to a new location. So the solution for that is that we have kind of manually hard-coded in things like if he needs to go to this spot, he needs to rotate, move the wheels, for so many seconds, and then stop and look at the player again.
Can I ask one more?
Steve.
I'm remembering some of the things you said at quarters about some restrictions on Anki or on Cosmo. And I thought I heard you say that some of them have been lifted. Do you think that's your influence? Has made them change their minds and open up some things? Or were they planning on it all along?
They're still planning on adding things to the SDK, and which features they chose to add first, we may have had some influence on that, because I know that when we asked them about adding, for instance, custom images on the LCD screen, they had mentioned that they really were trying to get that in, and because we mentioned it, it would definitely be available in the next release.
Yeah, there was actually a few replies on the forums where they specifically mentioned that they had bumped this to a higher priority because of all the feedback and the demand for a specific feature.
All right, thanks, team.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.